Against the odds, Britain voted to exit the European Union, and by a significant margin, 1.3 million votes representing almost 4% of the total. This outcome triggered hysterical prophecies of doom and gloom as to the supposed bleak future of the British economy. But is exiting the EU really going to lead to disaster? After all, Britain isn't the only country outside of the EU. The most prosperous European country, Switzerland, never even was part of the EU. In fact, a few days before the Brexit referendum, Swiss Parliament withdrew its application to join the EU. Evidently, this union isn't very attractive these days. Will leaving the EU harm Britain's international trade? It's key to remember that the EU isn't some free market paradise. Rather, it is a customs union, or in other words, a protectionist alliance designed to protect local European producers from overseas competition. This is achieved by erecting tariffs and by imposing an onerous regulatory regime. This means that when Britain exits the EU, and assuming it maintains a free trade policy, the British consumer will be able to buy products at global prices which are lower than EU prices. Some British producers will suffer as trade barriers are lifted, but others, unhampered by EU costs and regulations, will be able to compete effectively in the global marketplace. This greater freedom for European regulations and taxes will enhance London's position as a financial center, especially compared with the heavily regulated EU. Some fear that the EU will try to punish Britain for its insolence by waging a trade war. It is possible, but unlikely. The most powerful political lobby in Europe is the German car industry, and the largest export market is the UK. It is also important to remember that while the EU represents 20% of global economy, the other 80% is open for business. By the way, Germany, the US, and Canada were quick to express their desire to continue and trade with the EU. Stunningly enough, the fifth largest economy on the planet can still attract trading partners even when it's on its way out of the EU. Finally, there's the fear that Brexit could accelerate the disintegration of the EU. The question is, how is that a bad thing? The EU is a resounding economic failure with high unemployment, explosive debt, and anemic growth. Some think that without the EU, the bellicose past of the continent will return. But currently, we have 45% youth unemployment in Spain, 39% in Italy, and a seething head towards Germany. How is that conducive to peace? The key to peace is economic prosperity, and the model for that is not the European Union, it is Switzerland with its free trade and free market policies. And if Britain is smart enough to emulate the Swiss economic model, Brexit will turn out to be a huge success.